What's up all? You've got Rob from Terror at Synth High, and today we're here to talk about some comedy horror movies, or some horror comedy movies, a little bit of both. What I mean by that, of course, is that some of these movies are going to be primarily a horror movie with some comedy elements, and some are going to be a comedy movie with some horror elements. One of them, I don't even know what it really was supposed to be. I assume it was supposed to be a horror movie, mostly at least, but I find it funny, so on the list she goes. As a matter of fact, I can pretty much guarantee for at least one of these movies that a bunch of you guys are going to be like, nah, nope, he's wrong. He said a stupid thing. You hear what he's... No, he said a stupid thing! Wait, so why am I doing this again? So the criteria for this list was really simple. It had to be a movie that I own on a physical format. It's a countdown of 5 movies from 5 to 1, and they can be either comedy horror movies or movies that are horror comedies. Oh, yeah, and they have to be movies that I think are great. Probably should have led with that. Scrap it, new list, 5 shitty movies. Enjoy them. Yeah, no, I'm gonna do the good list. So to start off with, number 5 is probably the most well-known movie on this list. Actually, scrap that, it's definitely the most well-known movie on this list. We got Shaun of the Dead. So Shaun of the Dead is one of those movies where everybody loved it. It's one of those ones where it didn't matter if you were a horror fan or not. And I think because of that, some horror fans that are really into horror kind of overlook it now. It's just like, oh yeah, it's a funny movie, but that's a really great movie. I mean, between the acting in it, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, actually everyone in it was fantastic, and they worked so well together. Between that and between, the playbacks to all of the old zombie stuff, a lot of the clever screenwriting, a lot of the things that would predict what would happen later in the movie, it's not only just a great horror comedy movie, or comedy horror, but it's really just a great movie in general, and I think that that's why sometimes, and I don't get it. I don't get why sometimes horror fans are just like, oh, we want this great movie that's gonna be great for everybody, and then everybody likes it, and then they get all over it, because it's just like, whoa, now it got too good? Well, that's fucked. I apologize for my behavior. Sometimes when I let my emotions get the best of me, I say things I don't mean. My therapist says that I'm only human and this is okay, and that I'm doing a good job working on this, and I should just apologize when I know I've said the wrong thing. Sorry. Nah, you see, this is just another one of those times when... Okay, third time's a charm, Bobby boy. Keep it together. It's only the first video. So one of the things that I really don't enjoy is when a movie is just pushed down an audience's throat. When you have a movie that's a horror comedy movie that is just tries to pander to an entire audience, just to sell tickets, something like that. And at first I think a lot of people thought that might have been what this was. I think the test of time really, expresses differently. It really has been something that's been, something that everybody can enjoy, and I don't think that should be faulted. Like I said, there are definitely instances when that is the case. I don't think this is one of them. I think this movie stands above the rest, especially in a time period when, doing the horror, comedy, zombie thing, romedy, or whatever you want to call it. Romedy, it's a stupid term. It's a really stupid term. However, there were a lot of movies like that around the time period when this came out in like 2004, mostly because of this movie, right around after that, but there were some before, and it was kind of a, like a fad that I guess still goes on, but yeah, there were a lot of those that were made for, I think, less than genuine purposes, but Shaun of the Dead still stands up to this day in my eyes. It's above anything else. It's genuinely funny, and that's what I look for in this kind of thing, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. Moving on to number 4, take all the things I said about Shaun of the Dead and throw them right in the trash. Right in the street trash. Yeah, come on. Street trash is not a movie meant for everyone. When Street Trash came out in 1987, it was an exploitation-style movie, which was really more from, the earlier 70s to, throughout the early 80s, maybe more of a 70s kind of style, though. And at this point, this was kind of a love letter to those movies. It wouldn't be until really the early 2000s, until with things like Saw and things like that, you'd see more exploitation-style movies. But I don't see really much similarity between those at all. This is really more of a playback to the older school exploitation movies. Not only was it a playback to those type of movies, but it was also one of, in my eyes, one of the best and by far funniest. As I said, this is not a for everybody movie. If you have seen it, you know that. Shame on you, you're a dirty person. And so am I, because I love this movie. That said, this movie might not be for people that are easily offended, or people that are very politically correct. This is not. No. The very basic premise of the movie is around a homeless population that finds this tenafly viper, this booze that will rot people when they drink it in a bunch of really disgusting ways. But it centers around the whole city and kind of how there's a lot of these just degenerate people all just out for themselves. So in addition to the gory scenes and the melting scenes, there's a lot of dark themes in this. There's a lot of sexual dark themes. There's a lot of stereotyping. There's a lot of, there's some penis jokes. I think by now if you haven't seen this movie, if this is going to be the movie that you want to see or not. So let me just make it really simple. If this sounds like the kind of movie that you think you might like, you're really going to like it. If it sounds like the kind of movie that you don't think you're going to like, no, you're not going to like it. But to really pull it all together, there's two things I want to say about this movie. One, regardless of all of the ill-intentioned and, ill-mannered things that happen in this movie, it never really feels like it's really, like mean to one group or one person. It's mean to everyone. It's kind of the South Park mentality. Because at the end of the day, tenafly viper don't care. Don't care at all. Gonna get you. And the other thing that I'll say is that since it does encompass, kind of a love letter, to the entire exploitation, genre, I feel, it's going to be anybody who likes that and appreciates that kind of, those kind of genre films from that time period, I think will really dig this. So if you haven't checked it out and you like that or any of this sounds like you, definitely for you. If it's not, stay away. All right. So for number 3, all right, this is the one I'm probably going to get it for. You ready? Oh yeah, I'm ready. Oh, you're going to get it. Come on. Number 3 is Fangs, or Snakes, from 1974. Ha! It's so dumb. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. This is one of those movies that really needs to be seen to be believed. And if you've seen it, you might know what I'm talking about. I really think it's funny. I think that the character, Snaky Bender, is the main character, is an old guy who has a bunch of snakes, and people start done messing with his snakes. He don't like it. All right, so I think you see where this is going. It's not really too complex of a plot we're talking about here. He uses the snakes to get revenge on people. The comedy really ensues in the way Snaky Bender goes about doing this, or Snaky B as we call him in this house. Without spoiling too much, some of the things that occur in the movie include 4 separate cars going off the same cliff, and Snaky B dancing through a field afterwards after having his part in that. Him having his drink night with the general once a week and then getting upset when his new wife wants to take him away from that. During these drink nights, he usually listens to a lot of old school Americana anthems, and they get drunk as hell. There are also a lot of scenes where I just look at this guy and laugh because of the way he moves about. Sometimes he'll be in like in the market, and he'll just kind of come up from like behind a can of beans. And I'm not really selling this one maybe, but check it out if you like anything from 70s kind of low budget filming and horror movies in general, which I imagine a lot of you do, right? So yeah, give it a shot. All right. You tell me whether you think this is an intentionally funny movie or not. I always laugh at this movie a lot every time I watch it. I've even watched it with people that don't like horror, and it's been hit and miss. And look, I know there's a ton of, everybody's got their favorite, so bad it's good kind of movie. It's kind of like that kind of a deal for sure, but there's a little something special about this one that I don't hear talked about enough. So yeah, it gets on the comedy list for me. Moving right along for my number 2 pick on this list, this movie could have been number 1 for me for the amount of times I've seen this in my life. The only reason it wasn't is really because it's definitely much more of a comedy movie than the horror movie, and I felt like the number 1 spot should have a little more horror to it. But that being said, this is Return of the Killer Tomatoes. So there's definitely a big nostalgia factor for this one for me. This came out in 1988. I was probably watching it when I was in middle school for the first time on VHS, and I've probably since seen it about 20 times throughout my life, most recently being, I don't know, a couple months ago. It still stands up for me. You gotta like parody movies to be able to enjoy this one, because that's straight what it is. Movies like Blazing Saddles, Airplane, things like that, Naked Gun movies. This does that for horror movies, or really horror and sci-fi movies. This movie is a sequel to the 1970s Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and I find this better in every way. While the first one had actual rolling around big tomatoes, and there's something to be said for that, this doesn't really have that, but the comedy is just so goofy and so much more diverse. What I really dig about this movie is it rips on itself the entire time. It knows what it is. It knows that it's a follow-up to a movie that was originally a parody, and it makes fun of itself for doing that as well. It also does a lot of other clever and funny things that weren't being done as much at the time, like breaking the fourth wall, making fun of product placement in movies. It still stays to the story of following up directly after Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, but just it kind of brings it with a new audience. So it has all of the cast from the original movie, all of the main 3 guys from that, as well as a whole new cast of characters. And in this movie, they had the Great Tomato War in the first movie. And since then, tomatoes are illegal. So the guy from the original one, his nephew and his friend work alongside him in a pizza restaurant that doesn't serve anything with tomato sauce on it. So they have all sorts of weird toppings and stuff. Now the setup is really only a part of this. It's really just the consistent parody and clever things that are made up throughout it to riff on itself and other events that really make the movie. So definitely recommend this one. Like I said, hard nostalgia for me, but I think any horror fan who likes a little bit of chuckle in his chuckle will enjoy this one. Also, this is George Clooney's first movie in a major supporting role, if that's doing something for you. And coming in the number 1 spot today, similar in some ways to the last movie we just looked at in terms of that it's a parody and has a lot of fun things with the source material, Student Bodies. Student Bodies is the quintessential slasher movie parody. It came out in 1981, and that was right in the middle of the slasher movie boom. And the parody really hit the nail on the head with this one for sure. While making fun of all the tropes of slasher movies, it's a slasher movie in itself. All the characters are very quirky, very funny in a very over-the-top way. There's a lot of red herrings in it, all the things you'd come to expect from a slasher movie, so thus a slasher movie parody is, makes sense. There's even a twist ending and an ongoing kill count on screen throughout the movie. So if you are in any way a fan of the slasher movie, especially ones from the early 80s, definitely check this out if you haven't seen it. Pure gold for that kind of a thing. And it was an easy number 1 for me for this list. My channel's, based terror Synth high. I'm getting tired tonight. So that does it for today's list of horror comedies, comedy horrors, whatever. Listen, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'm sure we'll be doing a list again like this sometime soon because I really like the comedy and horror mix. But I want to know what you like. Put some comments down there for me, son, and let us know. Let us know what we missed. Let us know maybe some things I haven't seen. Maybe some things that you think I'm wrong about. Fangs was wrong. Regardless of which, I'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for watching. But really, it really was a stupid pick, though. Fine, imagine it was Evil Dead 2 then. Jeez, good night.